So we're gonna get our acceleration here on the highway. We're starting from second. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over a 2021 Mazda Miata RF with the Club package, and this one also has a 6-speed manual transmission. First and foremost though, a huge shout out and thank you to Southtown Mazda for giving me some time with this RF. Check out their inventory in the link below. Let's get straight into the video. Under the hood, we have a naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder that goes through a 6-speed manual transmission. Fuel economy is 26 around town and then 34 on the highway, with power outputs being 181 horsepower and then 151 pound-feet of torque. Now let's go over the front end of the Miata RF. So first off, even though this is a tiny car, it does have a longer hood, so it gives it that cool, aggressive sports car look. And then I love the kind of humps on either side. Kind of reminds me of a Porsche actually. And then coming down below, notice we've got these projector bulbs with the little LED accent right there. And then I love this piece right here on the side. Again, kind of adds to more of like an aggressive look compared to previous Miatas, but it still kind of has the Miata smile there at the front. And then notice you've got the blacked out front splitter, which all looks really good. And yeah, I mean, even though this came out in 2016, it still looks modern. It still looks really good to this day. Now coming on the side here, we've got 205mm tires wrapped around 17-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear as well. And then I love how the wheels are all blacked out to kind of match the overall blacked out theme on this particular Miata. And then the spoke design looks really clean as well. And then notice we have the side skirt there. And yeah, here's your full side view. This is one of the biggest benefits to the RF, is it looks a lot better from the side profile compared to the soft top. Now here's the trunk area in the Miata, and it actually has a decent amount of storage again for how small the car is. You could actually pretty comfortably fit maybe like a big old duffel bag, or if you did smaller bags, you could fit a couple in here. And then notice that the floor mats do say MX5 on it. But even though this is kind of like a smaller opening, as you guys can see, it goes down pretty deep. So yeah, overall storage space, considering the size of the car, pretty good. Now let's finish things up in the rear of the Miata. So first off, let's go over the taillights. Now this is the part that kind of slightly dates the car compared to the newer Mazdas. Like you guys can see, we've got some CX-30s here, and you can see that's kind of like the newer iteration of Mazda's taillight. So this part doesn't look as cool as you get in the newer Mazdas, but it still looks pretty good. And again, the little accent right there, I love that. You've got all your regular badging here, and then you've got the 2 little exhaust tips out the back. And then yes, we have the antenna here, which does that, but yeah. Anyways, there's everything for the rear. So let's go over the door panel here in the front. So first, notice that we've got the black paint here on the top portion, and then you actually get leather trim just down below with a bunch of nice stitching. And then you've got like the carbon fiber trim right here with your window controls and your mirror adjustments, normal practical car stuff. But I love how they bring the body paint into the interior, kind of like a Lotus Elise. And then here are the seats. So this is kind of like your entry-level Club package, if that makes sense, for the RF. So you've got the cloth seats. You can get Recaro seats with this, but these ones still have nice bolstering on them. They are manually adjustable. And then I love the pedals on the Miata. They look very beautiful, and they're spaced out perfectly for heel toe, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, just really solid setup. This does come with stability control obviously, but also lane departure assistance, so we've got some safety tech, and it has blind spot monitoring. But there's one more look before we pop in. Here is the steering wheel with the Miata. So we've got leather all around the steering wheel, and then you've got contrasted stitching there in the center portion. We have cruise control on this side, and then we've got voice command, volume controls, controls for the center stack, all the normal practical car stuff. You've got the stalk there for the lights, and then the windshield wiper stalk on the other side. And yeah, that's all for the steering wheel. Now here's the center gauge cluster. Notice that you've got the speed over on the left side because it's not important. The most important thing is the RPMs, which are front and center with a red line of over 7,000. Yeah, super fun car to rev all the way out. And then we do have that center screen, which you can scroll through a couple different menus to get different bits of information on the car itself. Again, normal practical car stuff. But yeah, I love the overall look of the gauge cluster. It kind of reminds me of Porsches in a way, or like Ferrari, where they have like the RPMs just gigantic and in the center, and then 2 other gauges on the other sides. Now here's the center infotainment system. First off, let me show you guys the camera. So you've got a backup camera with trajectory lines. Now I'm turning the steering wheel and nothing's happening, so you guys can see that they don't turn with the steering wheel. Resolution on it's pretty good, but again, the newer Mazdas definitely have a better camera system. This is kind of like the older unit, and that goes into the infotainment system as well. It's Mazda's older unit, which, I mean, for me personally, this isn't super important because I see this as kind of like a fun weekend car, and the fact that it even has an infotainment system is a huge plus to me. But response time on it is pretty decent, and then you also have a dial you can control things. So if you want to use it as a touchscreen, or if you want to use the dial, you can do whatever you prefer. Now I've got the stop start button right here, and then we have the climate controls just down below. This does have a single zone climate, and we've got heated seats here for the front. Got some extra storage space in that area, and then here is the shifter for that 6-speed manual transmission. So first off, the clutch is very light, and then the shifter is super notchy. Definitely, I mean, for the price point, the only other car that I can think that has a shifter that feels as good as this is the Honda Civic Type R. But I mean, those start at a much higher price, and good luck finding one for MSRP. Dealers always want way more money for that. So I mean, for a car that you can actually get at a reasonable price shifter wise, I don't know if there's anything else that just feels quite as good as the Miata here. And then we've got the e-brake right here, and then these are the analog controls for the infotainment system, and like the volume knob and all that for the radio as well. You have the center console here, which is tiny, and then you have the cups, which you can move over, and there is a little space right here that you can kind of pop it into. But if you want it out of the way of your passenger's leg area, then you keep them there. Notice that they are body colored to the exterior. And then this is actually your glove box here. So I mean, it's an okay amount of storage space back there. Obviously not massive, but again, this is a small car, so it's kind of expected. And yes, that means that there is no glove box. Finishing things up here, we've got the mirror, which you actually have pretty good visibility through. And then we've got the roof, which I will do the opening function here for the roof itself. And then notice that you have this to kind of help with the wind buffeting. Visibility through the back isn't amazing, but it's actually pretty good. And I love seeing the little buttresses there on the side. I think that looks really cool. But yeah, that's all for the top. You can see very nicely labeled here. We've got the top up and down button. So you just lift it up, and then this is what will actually do the top function. And notice how it kind of pops like that, and then you guys can see the whole thing, and then it'll close on the back part, and the windows will go back up, and then it'll give you kind of a thing right there saying operation complete, and then top will be down. Now here's what the car looks like with the top down, and notice that it still looks absolutely fantastic with the top down. Again, I love kind of like the buttresses there on the back, and it has this cool kind of like 911 Targa type look to it, obviously at a significantly cheaper price point. But yeah, overall, like top down, top up, the Miata RF looks good both ways. And especially for the price point, again, I think it's one of the best looking sports cars that you can get today. This is definitely aged just very, very well. Now let's quickly get into pricing. So this particular Miata RF stickers for about $34,000 before any type of market adjustment. And let's take it out and see how it drives. Well, let's talk about visibility here with the RF. So you guys can see visibility of the hood's actually pretty good. Even though it does have a longer hood, it's really easy to see over. And again, I love kind of the two humps on either side. I think those look really good. Here's your visibility through both of the mirrors. They are tiny, just like the rest of the car. And then here's throughout the rest of the rear. And when you have the top off, it actually helps out with visibility quite a bit. But, well, I gotta put the brake down too. Let's set off. So we're gonna start the first part of this review with the top down, and then I will be putting the top up because I feel like the audio quality is going to end up being atrocious just because of wind noise and all that. First off, clutch super light, but you can definitely feel the engagement point very well with the clutch here on the Miata. It's just absolutely perfect. Yeah, shifter feels amazing as well. Just overall, the driving position feels really good. You definitely do feel pretty close in terms of like to the steering wheel and everything. And again, it is a smaller sized car, so you kind of got to expect that. I did kind of go back a little bit though, because it's a little bit closer than I needed to be. Let's see how it rev matches. It's actually pretty blippable. It rev matches 100 mph. 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 definitely nice with the downshift rev matching on the Miata for sure. Brakes definitely feel good here with this club package too. And there's actually pretty much no wind buffeting, even though the top is down here with the RF. Like I can feel a little bit in my head, but it's really not bad whatsoever. We're going almost 40 miles an hour and it doesn't really have crazy buffeting or anything like that. It feels pretty normal if you ask me, to be honest. But aside from that, what else about the Miata? So first off, the steering is electrically assisted with the newer Miata. And some people complain about that because they like the older hydraulic rack. This is definitely more direct compared to an older Miata. That's pretty good. But yeah, the steering's definitely more direct. Yeah, you don't get as much feedback, but compared to like any other modern car, you get tons of feedback. Like you feel pretty much everything that's happening through the steering. Yeah, it's so blippable. Like it's such a good, like everything about this. And if you guys are wondering, we're popping into here for a second so we can do the top. And actually, I'll just leave filming while we do the top operation so you guys can kind of see how quick that actually happens. Now, you technically can do it while you're moving at like 5 miles an hour. But I mean, when are you ever going to be driving like 5 miles an hour? You're pretty much always going to do it when you stop. So again, just press the button and you guys can see behind me with the whole top situation. So like, let's just pretend that, I don't know, it started to rain or something like that. I'd say it's about, and then you do have to do the windows the rest of your way. I would say that took about 15 seconds, roughly, sometime around that, which I mean, isn't bad. Like if you're at a stoplight, for example, then, I mean, as long as you do it at the right time, then you should be able to get it up just in time, no problem whatsoever. So we're getting back up with the top up so you guys can kind of get a little bit of a sound difference. And I mean, the exhaust in this car's stock isn't super loud. The biggest thing about having the top down right is you get a little bit of wind in your hair. You get kind of like that, again, that just normal top down experience. I love how small this car is. It just like is the perfect size. Something also mentions, because the car is super small, even though it's a hot day outside, I really don't have to have the air conditioning up too high, because it's just cools down the cabin so well overall. So we're gonna get our acceleration here on the highway. We're starting from second. Actually does pretty good. At highway speeds, you definitely do hear more noise than like a regular car. So I do have to talk louder for you guys to be able to hear me. It's freaking out when we have to go over. Anyways, you do hear more noise. This is way quieter than the soft top. Suspension's really smooth. You could definitely do a road trip in this car, no problem. Like, it is that comfortable. You could do a road trip. This kind of has that like Honda VTEC type feel to it, where at like the last kind of few RPMs, it really comes to life. Definitely a cool feeling that you just don't get in a lot of modern cars nowadays. This is our tunnel area where we usually go through, and I'll kind of get the window down a little bit so you can hear. Yeah, it doesn't have a crazy loud exhaust, so you're not really going to get a whole lot through with the car. But again, I definitely love the feeling. Again, the feeling of the shifter is great. The steering feel is definitely, like I said, even though it's electronically assisted, it's super direct. Very, very direct in terms of the steering. You do get a decent amount of feel for an electronic system, and it just feels so lightweight and tossable. And that's where this car really feels at home, is when you're taking it around some corners. If you're just going to do straight line stuff with this car, it's going to be boring. It's not that fast. But the second that you start to take it around some corners and you start to really feel the chassis of the car, right? You do some downshifts. It's so fun, and it has quite a bit of body roll, so you feel like you're at the limit when you're at pretty slow speeds, actually. So let's actually sum things up here with the Miata. So first off, from a look perspective, I think it's a really good looking car on the outside. Interior, even though this is not like the fully loaded version, it's actually pretty nice. You got some nice stitching all throughout. The seats are very comfortable. You definitely do feel like you're in a small interior, but I was in a Dodge Viper yesterday and this interior feels bigger than the Vipers. So it's got that going for it. But aside from that, driving experience is amazing. The shifter's perfect, notchy, definitely one of the best manual transmissions out there. Clutch feel is really good as well. This engine's pretty blippable, especially for an inline 4-cylinder. Definitely just super blippable, easy to use, all that kind of stuff. Steering, even though it's electronic now, still feels great. You get a good amount of feedback and it's just so direct. And because this car is so light, turn-in is great. You can really just have so much fun with this car and you don't have to be going that fast. That's the best part of that Miata, is that you can have fun legally. A lot of cars you have to just be well above what you should be doing legally for you to be able to have any type of fun. Whereas here with the Miata, you can be going at slower legal speeds and you can just have tons of fun just going through the gears and then just kind of hucking it into corners. And yeah, it does have quite a bit of body roll, but that adds to the fun experience. Of course, well, they were going to turn and now they aren't. There's people in Utah because they want to be in the front of the lane. But yeah, overall, tons of fun. And so if you're looking for a fun, lightweight car that you could daily drive, then yeah, check out the new Miata and the RF. I think that's the one to go for. That's going to sum things up for our video on this 2021 Mazda Miata RF with a 6-speed manual in the club package. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to Southtown Mazda for giving me some time with this Miata. Check out the inventory in the link below. I'll see all of you guys in the next video.